Hi, it's Ileana. So today I am going to look over the reviews of the beginner's remote viewing learning guides and templates for doing RV sessions. I'm going to review what I think should be consistent format of kind of illustrating at least a beginner's guide to remote viewing, like the basic template of what people can use to do remote viewings. This is like you're just getting introduced to remote viewing. So it's literally a beginner's remote viewing guide and template. It should have some information about what remote viewing is, how to use the template, for example, how to spend what amount of time on writing down the target ID, perception of the target, what you're getting in terms of impressions, interpretations, when you're going into the target signal, what is an ideogram, what kind of descriptive language to use, that kind of stuff, to have some helpful hints. What is analytical overlay? It's like when your mind is seeing something that could be associated with the target, or it could be something related to the target, or it could totally be non-related to the target or connected somehow. So there always should be sections of descriptive language, how to use descriptive language. It's best to use things to describe airplane. If you see an airplane in a target, long, cylindrical, sleek, smooth, metallic, man-made, structure in motion with extended horizontal elements on both sides, sound of buffering air detached from the surface below, instead of trying to name the target as an airplane. Of course, if you're getting airplane, you can put it as analytical overlay of what your mind is picturing. That's analytical overlay, and there should be a section in a template, remote viewing template for that. So I like the feedback loops, helpful hints and tips for beginners of remote viewing, and that's Naim from the Future Forecasters group. Just recently released beginner's guide and template for remote viewing for free, which I think is great because remote viewers giving back to the community of something that you can work with for helpful hints and tips. I thought I'd put this together to show. He gives suggestions how to work with speed, for how much time you should use to write information, sketch it, for impressions of remote viewing target, to write it down quickly and sketch it quickly while you see it, the impression that comes to your mind. I agree with that. Whatever comes in, that's what you put down with your pen and paper or on your digital sketch pad, using descriptive languages. It's not what you think the target is, it is what it is. So using specific names and nouns of what you think the target is, using exotic language often can get people off target or can get confusing. It goes within the analytical overlay area, and so your mind can jump to conclusions. But even analytical overlay can be useful sometimes because you're seeing things that could be important. So there needs to be an area for that in a target, in the template form. And I like the way Naim set it up, where he really shows you step by step what is an ideogram. He describes it, it's a reflexive doodle or scribble that represent different gestalts of the target. can think of the ideogram as a handshake between the remote viewer and the target. So ideograms are created quickly, 1 to 2 seconds, and they represent the common things that could be in the target in stage 1 of remote viewing. Land, air, water, man-made structures, natural structure, life, energy, movement. It could be any one of those things in stage 1, because there's like 3 to 5 stages of remote viewing. The 3 basic stages, you start pretty simple. So it could indicate things like land, water, life forms at the target for the ideograms. And that's what you kind of start with. You start with ideograms. And it's a basic doodle scribble. That's what he shows in stage 1 ideogram. You draw it 3 times. And that sort of indicates to you what's in the target. And the ideogram can look abstract, or it can be like an object that you see. Basic object or angles or something. So an ideogram could look different to everyone. It's not going to be the same thing. And then you have your sensory data in stage 2, where you'll see colors, you'll see and feel sounds. There'll be smells, taste, temperatures, textures, dimensions, and aesthetic impact of what's in your target, what you're feeling about the target. And the AOL analytical overlay, that AOL analytical overlay of images, like what you're perceiving in the target. You just sketch it out, whatever there is as a basic. It's sensory impressions. And again, analytical overlay could be important to the target, not so important. It could be related, not related at all. Sometimes the mind gives us impressions. So it's important to concentrate when you're doing remote viewing and put the information in its proper slots of where something fits on the form. And a basic form is good to have when you're doing remote viewing. That's stage 2, the colors, the sounds, smells, taste. What colors are perceivable at the target? What are you perceiving sounds? What sounds are perceivable at the target? Smells, taste. What smells and tastes are perceivable in the target? Temperature. What are the dominant temperatures of the target or at the target? Textures. What textures are perceivable at the target? Dimensions. What are the dominant dimensions at the target? An aesthetic impact. How would you feel if you were at the target? Respond with a single impression or words, and the analytical overlay. If any images or high-level ideas, nouns, names, guesses come to mind, well, in a category, list, sketch them in this box, then return to listing your sensory impressions. So I like how Naim organizes everything into its categories and slots and describes the stages of what a basic template should have for target stuff. And then stage 3 is sketching. It's actually sketching the main things that are in the target. What are you perceiving? What are the impressions? What are the images, the information coming in, written and visual images? What do you hear? What do you sense? What do you feel? What do you see? What's in the target? And you always write down the target ID and you sketch it 3 times. So you have a chance to get all the things within the target, all the important things. And if you get any analytical overlay information, you put it in this section and you put your main images and write up stuff here. for the target ID, description, sketching. And you basically repeat that 3 times in the form. And then you have, again, those remote viewing descriptor word list of textures, colors, smells, tastes, temperatures, sounds. He gives examples of that, what that could be. Dimensions, aesthetic impact. That has to do more with feelings. Then you go into the remote viewing template example itself. He fills it out. Usually the template starts with target ID. That's the target number with letters and numbers for the target, whatever the physical target is. And sometimes he calls it an advance. Any ideas or concepts coming to mind before you begin? You know, sometimes when you start remote viewing, kind of get a bit of an idea. You see an image of something when you're connecting to those letters and numbers. It could be pyramids, it could be anything. He put it in the category of advance. He was perceiving pyramids. You write down the date, the month. So the month, the day and the year, time. And you start doing the target and name. He put Naim, obviously. And then the stage 1, the 3 ideograms of what he was perceiving as the ideograms, basic gestalts of the target, land, water, air, clouds. It could be any of those or something else, as virtually anything can be in your target. Then the sensory data, again, the colors, the sounds, smells, taste, temperatures, textures, the AOL analytical overlay section, the aesthetic impact, what is it you're feeling that's there in the target. And then the stage 3, sketching it out 3 times. What is the target? You write the target ID and you sketch the impressions of the target and you write down information about it. You should spend like 10 seconds on it. Textures, temperatures, colors, sound, the physical aspects of the target. You know, there's energetics, there's land, there's water, there's anything that could be in the target. Again, you put anything, if there's anything in analytical overlay, like pyramid, Giza, CN Tower, whatever the analytical overlay impression is, that's secondary to the target, you put it there. So I like how it's very clean, it's well explained what the information is that you're filling out in the template form. So he gives an example of a remote viewing, and then the summary. Write a short summary about the target, what impressions stood out to you most, get any unresolved feelings or ideas off your chest before you see the target reveal. I like how he gives a bit of an example here and he fills out the template. And then basically the empty template for people to use, actually to work with. He gives that also with the learning guide. He gives the template. So I like that. Basically the ideogram section, stage 1. Stage 2, sensory data. I like that. Sketching times 3. Stage 3 with the AOL. So this is a very simplistic template. It's basic, but for beginners it's pretty good. You get to feel comfortable with remote viewing templates and guides because there's different styles of remote viewing out there. And Naim does make a video about this particular learning guide for remote viewing and how to use the template. So I'll include that in the links below. Stage 3, you do 3 sketches of the target plus the AOL if there is an AOL. Then you do the summary that is describing what was in the target in as much detail as you can on page 6. So I really like Naim's remote viewing guide, learning guide, and template, beginner's template, that really shows you what the beginning 3 stages of remote viewing are, what you might get typically on a template. And then we also have a remote viewing guide, learning guide, and template examples by Daz Smith, also of the Future Forecasters group. This is from several years ago. He described some important things about remote viewing. People need to know stage 1 ideogram, stage 2 sensory impressions, stage 3 sketching, what AOLs are, summaries, a descriptor list. It's a little similar to Naim's and sort of different. I mean, the remote viewing descriptor word list is totally the same. The template is a little bit different, and he gives you an example of what a RV session target could look like. So I like that, like a picture of a target that is sealed off in an envelope that the tasker puts the target into and writes down the letters and numbers of what the target will be. And the remote viewer will not know what the target is. It's in a sealed envelope that the remote viewer puts away somewhere in a secure place so nobody can get to the envelope, and the remote viewer is supposed to figure out what the target is based on the letters and the numbers. So I like the example of that, and I also like how Daz did a sample of a remote viewing so people could see what that looks like in the stages. Stage 1 ideogram. This template looks a little bit different. Stage 2 sensory impressions and areas for AOLs. Again, sounds, textures, temperature, colors. Also luminescence, smells, taste, dimensions, aesthetic impact. What did he perceive as a feeling? Then the stage 3 sketching, then that, AOLs. So it's a little bit different than Naim's in terms of how the template is, written up. And then the summary, the final aspect of it. So this is also simplistic, but I thought I'd include this as well because I like this template too. It has descriptions of what you're supposed to do here and how that works. It's slightly different from Naim, but I think it works well too. It's almost similar, but Naim's is more structured, I think. But sometimes more simplistic is also good, so I thought I'd include samples of both of them so that people could see the templates and get an idea of what remote viewing is and what's involved. Now, these are beginner learning guides for remote viewing and templates, so it's good to start with the basics. I've tried several remote viewing templates, and for me, I like a challenge, honestly. So I like to go around and play with different templates and modify them, remote viewing templates. If I find something I like, I will modify it for my own uses sometimes, and I have done that. And I really like when a template is at least 13 pages with various elements of remote viewing stuff that is very necessary for doing advanced remote viewing. And sometimes beginner remote viewers are very talented and they can do practices of remote viewing sessions and then they jump into the advanced stuff. Sometimes it can take years before that happens as you practice and get better. Personally, I like a challenge, and I have tried different templates of several remote viewing teachers, and I've often adapted those templates to make them even more challenging for myself because I love a challenge. So honestly, for me, the more complicated, the better. That's just the way I am with remote viewing stuff, because I remote view many different things, different targets, different concepts. I do blind remote viewing, and I also do open remote viewing sessions where I sort of know just basic idea what the target could be, just a basic. So I do blind sessions, double blind, blind, and open remote viewing sessions, because I experiment with a lot of different remote viewing styles, different targets, tasking targets, monitoring targets, and remote viewing targets. I've gotten into all areas of remote viewing so that I could do remote viewing managerial work, because that's all aspects of remote viewing. The tasking, knowing how to set up a target, how to customize the target ID numbers or do it with a random generator, how to set up the target itself in the aspects of it, like what is the target. Sometimes you're looking for one thing in the target, sometimes you're looking for multiple aspects in a target, so you divide it into category A, B, and C, so that when you give it to the remote viewer, it's in sections, and you do tell them that there's more than one part to it. If there is, they need to know that, but they don't know the significance or meaning of the letters and the numbers for the target ID itself, because they must be blind to it. But there's also remote viewing that's kind of like remote sensing, which is a little different. When you're doing a monitor session, sometimes there could be a map of things that you're asking somebody to remote view, and you go to sections of the map, and kind of as the monitor, you start asking the remote viewer questions. What do you sense here? Is there anything here on the map? Go to this particular location, and then you record it. That's remote sensing, remote viewing. You never tell the remote viewer ahead of time what they'll be remote viewing, whether it's remote sensing, blind remote viewing, open remote viewing. You don't want them to be backloaded with too much information of anything. You want them to be as blank to the target as possible. So then you get clean remote viewing no matter what type of remote viewing sessions you're doing. So for me, doing all of that type of different aspects of remote viewing is important. Both the tasker, the monitor, and the remote viewer, and the analyst at the end analyzing other sessions that I assign as targets to remote viewers, if I'm doing it from the perspective of the tasker. Or doing various remote viewings where I've done a target, then I will do a monitoring session with other remote viewers on the same target without them knowing anything about it, blind, or they're blind, to double check my own work for accuracy. So keeping it honest, clean, and keeping it real, because you want verifiable information for targets. So it's not just a non-verifiable target. If you've only done the target once and nobody else has done it, it's non-verifiable unless there's other data and facts in the public spectrum of information to back up anything that you remote viewed. And then you can do research about that later on of what was in your target, the information, and it sort of collates with other public information in regards to your target. So if there's research, public research on it, sometimes it could be verifiable only if you've remote viewed it, or one other remote viewer has remote viewed it for you. But it's good to have at least 3 remote viewing sessions, or even 4, to have similar corroborating information for target validation and verification. More than one person remote viewing it. So it's kind of like there are strict rules for remote viewing for targets and stuff on the scientific level. But there's many different styles of remote viewing techniques and how you go about noting down the data and drawing the sketches. But basically, the idea of it is really the same in terms of template styles. Some templates can be a bit more complex and some are more simplistic. I personally like the challenging templates. The more information I could put down about a target or sketch or draw, the better for me. And I could be spending several days on a target or one day or several weeks. It just depends how tough the target is, the complexity, what's coming in, taking breaks, how much workload I have, how I'm feeling, my health. That can depend on how long they spend on a target as well. What's going on in somebody's life, because you want to be as clear-minded as you can without any distractions when you're doing remote viewing and being your healthiest if you can. Just depends on what's happening in your life. But I find that Naim and Daz have given the basics of the remote viewing learning guides and templates. Those are the two examples I would recommend. And I'll include all the links below in the video description of where you can find these free learning guides and templates to download. I just collated this into this one report to show. And I think it's good that they gave back to the community, to people who are considering learning about remote viewing. This is kind of a great starter and intro to help people figure out if they want to pursue remote viewing or not, to practice a little bit, to see what your ability is or adaptability, to test yourself of what kind of skill you might naturally have with remote viewing before you take advanced courses, to see if you want to even pursue it further or not. If this is something that you'd be interested in, if you're good at it, or if you have the capacity for it, so you could try it out and see for yourself if it's for you or not. So I think that's a great start. That's why I wanted to do this video, because I think these are the two best reviews of learning guides for remote viewing and templates that I could find, and I took 3 hours to search. So these are the two best examples. That's why I'm doing this video, to demonstrate the two examples. Plus, I've been also adapting a remote viewing template as well to my needs that I'll include in a book that I'm doing about remote viewing. It's far more advanced than this intro, but it has the elements of these templates. And basically, it's important to be comfortable with the template you're using and that it fits all your needs for remote viewing of doing sessions. That's what I've learned from adapting a template that I think works great but needed more. So that's what I've learned. So that's what I've been working on and continue to work on, and just finding elements of what I've been adapting and expanding as a template, from trying various templates and just putting everything as a collated aspect of what I like from all these templates, really has helped me to understand how to formulate templates and what works best and what doesn't. And it's all trial and error in some areas of figuring out what you want to create as your own template sometimes, and you can be very creative once you're used to doing remote viewing. And if you want to do your own templates, I highly encourage that, from seeing the examples of what you like out there of remote viewing templates, to customize your own and work with your own. As needs grow and things change, when you become more adaptable at remote viewing, sometimes you might want to challenge yourself and do a bigger template. So I highly suggest being creative with that and doing advanced remote viewing templates, customization. I highly believe in that once you become proficient in remote viewing. So it's good to try doing that too. I highly recommend it. I found it a useful experience. And my original template was different than what I adapted, but again, I like a challenge in trying different styles and collating things to become even more useful and adaptable. So I now have 2 different templates that I work with for all my remote viewing needs and projects that will be in my book when I publish it. So I just wanted to kind of share that information. So thank you so much.